Please give me a thumbs up when you can hear it.
We can hear it.
Due to COVID-19, this meeting will be conducted as a Zoom meeting pursuant to the provisions of Assembly Bill 361, which suspends certain requirements of the Brown Act. This meeting is being live streamed on the CCTA website. The chair will call upon members, staff, and other speakers by name. Please speak clearly and state your name before giving comments or remarks. Persons participating via Zoom with their cameras enabled are reminded that their activities are visible to viewers. Members participating by Zoom wishing to speak should physically raise their hand and unmute their mic when called upon. Members should mute their mics when done speaking. Citizens participating
Sorry, I've got a pinwheel.
by Zoom wishing to speak should use the Raise Hand feature or dial *9 if participating via phone, and the chair or staff will call upon them at the appropriate time. Citizens will have 3 minutes to speak. After 3 minutes, staff will lower their hand and mute their mic. Participants via phone will be called upon by the last 4 digits of their phone number. It is requested that public speakers state their names and organization, but providing such information is voluntary. Written public comments received in accordance with the teleconferencing special notice for public comment guidelines are printed on the meeting agenda. If authors of the written correspondence would like to speak, they should raise their hand and the chair will call upon them at the appropriate time. All written correspondence received after that and during the meeting will be entered into the record. A roll call vote will be taken for all action items. Thank you for participating in a meeting of the Contra Costa Transportation Authority.
Okay, now I will ask for public comment from anyone in our audience who wishes to address us on any item that is not on the agenda. I don't see any hands. Do you, Jackie?
I do not see any hands either.
Okay, well then we're going, do we have quorum yet?
We still do not have quorum.
Okay, then I am going to go.
Oh, we have one more body, so we're just short one.
Okay.
Member Toth has just arrived.
So I'm going to go down to item 4B. It appears our first non-action item. And so Richard, John, and Naomi are going to give us an update on the short-term implementation of the one-seat ride, etc. Who's taking it away?
I'm sorry, can we do a roll call first?
Oh, yes, we should do a roll call first.
Thank you, Chair Mitchoff. Okay, Member Anderson?
Here, and I should mention at this point that I have a 3 o'clock meeting, so we'll need to leave just prior to that.
Thank you. Member Braxton? Member Burgess? Member Franklin?
Here, I also have the 3 o'clock meeting with Charlie. Thank you.
Thank you. Member Haskew?
Here.
Member Howell? Member Hudson? Member Hirsch? Member Kamara?
Here.
Thank you. Member Craig?
Here.
Thank you. Member Levin? Member McCrary? Member Toth?
Here.
Thank you. Member Xavier?
Here.
Thank you. Vice Chair Geringer? Chair Mitchoff?
Here.
Okay, so we have 8 members present. Members Braxton, Burgess, Howell, Hudson, Hirsch, Levin, McCrary, and Vice Chair Geringer all absent.
Okay, and did somebody say they've checked in with Teresa and she's just going to be a little bit late, or should I text her?
I did email her, and she did.
Oh, sorry.
Okay.
I haven't checked in with her, but I have got her number. I can text her.
If you would, please.
Yes.
And I know we'll talk later offline about how we make sure things get taken care of. All righty. So back to item 4B, which is the update on the short-term implementation of the one seat program.
Right. Thanks. I think that's me, Richard Weiner. So we have three very brief 5-minute presentations on the three different strategies, which are not the focus of this meeting. So I'll take one seat right. So David Kaufman, who's with Nelson Nygaard and has been with us for many years, and is a specialist. He has expertise, particularly in cost allocation programs and that kind of thing for paratransit services. So he's done a very in-depth analysis with the data that's available to him, and he's made really good progress. So I'd say he's 3/4 of the way there. But I wanted to give you just some preliminary findings that we have so far. So just as a reminder, the purpose of this pilot would be to expand the current one seat ride pilot, which is being conducted by the transit agencies in the county. And from the data that David was able to get from Rashida and others, the primary direction of travel is from the Tri-Delta area to Central County. What we're looking at in this pilot is West County. The focus will be on the area of West County that's served primarily by East Bay Paratransit. So that would be cities like Richmond, San Pablo, El Cerrito, parts of El Sobrante and Pinole. And the issues that David's looking at would be cost sharing arrangements, what the likely demand is. And just from the limited data that he does have, it looks as though demand is going to be fairly limited. The likely direction is going to be from this area, the East Bay Paratransit part of Contra Costa County to Central County is the most likely direction. Funding requirements and implementation issues. So if there are any questions on that, I can possibly answer some of them, but we're hoping to come back to you maybe even this coming month in July with some more information. But it's very much an active project for us.
Yep. If there are no questions for Richard on that, I can jump into the coordinated entity update.
Please do.
So yeah, this is John Cunningham. I'm with Contra Costa County, and one of the priorities of the Accessible Transportation Strategic Plan and previous plans actually was to create a new coordinating entity that would oversee this service area, and they would pursue new funding, administer uniform eligibility processes, expand mobility management, oversee one seat ride, and a number of other initiatives. The specific types of coordinating entities that we're considering are an existing transit agency, the Contra Costa Transportation Authority, a new joint powers, a new nonprofit or an existing nonprofit, or a hybrid nonprofit CCTA model where the two organizations are closely aligned. It's in the way you might see a foundation doing the charitable work of a corporation, that sort of arrangement. So those are the models we're looking at. We broached the topic in detail at a working group meeting on Monday this week. It started off a bit rough, to be honest, which was staff's fault. We were scrambling to put materials together for the meeting, and we ended up having the meeting without distributing the materials beforehand. That was a mistake. It won't happen again, and we're adjusting as we move forward. But despite that misstep, we did have a really good discussion on the topic. We received a lot of good feedback. I'm not going to go over all the feedback right now. We'll provide a comprehensive update at a future meeting. I'll just hit on some points just so you get a flavor of the engagement of the working group. So we had this list of different entity types that I went through earlier, and we categorized them with their various strengths and weaknesses. And one of the feedback, one of the comments we got was, this is not an exhaustive list of strengths and weaknesses. It needs to be much more robust, which was great. That's kind of why we're having the conversation, so people can really sort of pile on and help us build a complete picture on the capacities of each one of these individual models. So that was one comment. another sort of realization that we came to getting the feedback is a joint powers was on the potential list of organizations, but it seems almost universally looked down upon. One more agency in a system that has problems, in part because of too many agencies, doesn't really make sense. So unless we hear a protest, we'll probably remove a joint powers from future consideration. Another bit of feedback we got, while it is still early in the dialogue for the coordinating entity, people already sort of weighed in on what their initial preferences are for agency types. We received one thumbs up for a transit agency stepping in, one for the transportation authority, and one for the hybrid nonprofit CCTA model. So that was the feedback that we got early on. And then the last point that I'll talked about was from Don Tatson, and it was a good way to look at this. And he observed that, and listening to folks, that there's a number of tensions that we're trying to deal with or manage in this system as we're moving ahead. He thinks that we should characterize each one of these organization types and how they deal with those tensions. So future iterations of the material will probably take that into account and use that as a metric against which we look at these different organization types. So that's my update. This item is going to go back to the working group. We'll continue to collect feedback, refine the materials, and then it'll come back to the task force at a future meeting. That's all I have.
I just want to chime in really quick. Vice Chair Geringer has arrived, so we do have quorum now. Thank you.
You're on mute, Chair.
Thank you. My phone started ringing and it's the chicken dance, so I didn't think y'all would like to hear that. I know Teresa's here, but let's finish this item and then we'll go back to the rest of it. Is that the end of the presentation? I know it was just informational.
Yeah, I was going to just touch on one call, one click, which is mostly to let you know that we've continued to do research into different options and different components that may become part of one call, one click. And actually the presentation we have scheduled for later on the agenda is tied to that with the 211 ride as some good information from another part of the state and potentialities we can look at in that area. And that's really all I have for one call, one click right now.
Okay. Thank you for that. Are there any comments from the committee? Could you, there we go. Are any members of the committee wishing to make any comments or have any questions? Not seeing any. Jackie, did we get any public comment written or anybody in the audience?
No public comments received.
Okay, well then when we move on to item 4C, we'll bring this back up. But for now, I'm going to go back to the beginning and take up item 3, which is the consent calendar, which is a summary of our actions from April 21st, 2022. I'm going to ask for a motion and a second on the floor, and then we'll get to questions and or comments. Luella?
I'll move, except I have a comment at the same time, and that is that under the action item, I couldn't find who seconded Member Hudson's motion.
Okay, Jackie, are you able to go back and find that? Maybe not right now, but in a review of the Zoom from then, and we can just edit and do a correction on the minutes that way?
Sure, no problem at all.
All right, and who would like to second that?
Second, Geringer.
Thank you, Ms. Teresa. And any public comment on our minutes? I'm assuming there aren't any. All right, roll call vote, please.
Okay, Member Anderson.
Aye.
Member Braxton. Member Burgess. Member Franklin.
Aye.
Member Haskew.
Right?
Member Howell. Member Hudson? Member Hirsch? Member Kamara?
Aye.
Member Craig?
Yes.
Member Levin? Member McCrary? Member Toth?
Yes.
Member Xavier?
Aye.
Vice Chair Geringer?
Aye.
Chair Mitchoff?
Yes.
Okay, motion passes unanimously with members Braxton, Burgess, Howell, Hudson, Hirsch, Levin, and McCrary absent.
All right.
And may I make a correction to my correction? I actually found the seconded, it was by member Xavier, and so no additional work is necessary.
Okay.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
The minutes are approved as submitted. Thank you then. We are now going to move on to item 4A. This is the means-based fare subsidy pilot proposal. And Naomi, you're going to lead us on this one.
Thank you. So just to go back to the very beginning really fast. So the task force was charged with identifying funding, identifying a coordinated entity, and identifying opportunities for short-term implementation. We identified Measure X funding as a possibility. And then for that funding, we highlighted several priorities. The coordinated entity, of course, one call, one click, one seat ride, and a means-based fare subsidy program. In April, we updated you on our research and asked for feedback. And I'm just going to really briefly touch on those highlights and then share our proposal. So we, as I said, did some research. The memo is in the packet for this meeting. Some of the key takeaways was that program eligibility requirements vary by different programs in different areas. Application processes are all the way from traditional paper to phone applications and online applications in a wide range. Fare payment structures are done via online accounts, debit cards, vouchers, again, a wide range of possibility. We believe that subsidizing multiple modes is desirable instead of focusing on just one mode. And then funding sources, programs receive funding from a combination of sources, but sales tax funding appears to be the most common source. Okay, next slide. So we did case studies on a number of different types of programs, some taxi subsidy programs, such as the Solano Mobility Local Taxi Card Program and SFMTA's Essential Trip Card. We also looked at various TNC subsidy programs in Alameda County and existing ones in Contra Costa County like GoGo Concord and Go San Ramon. We looked at MTC Clipper Start. And we found a couple programs that have ADA paratransit trip subsidy programs, Samtrans and Marin Access. Next slide. And we also, in thinking about doing an ADA paratransit subsidy, we looked at what are the current fare operations for the ADA providers in Contra Costa County and tried to sort of really break down how fares are paid and how people can acquire their fare media. And we again noted our potential funding sources for this, which is Measure X currently, and then in the future, potentially the Community Development Block Grant. Okay, next slide. So we have identified some parameters for our pilot, but we are asking for your approval to actually narrow down on some of them, because some of the parameters are still flexible. And we're asking for your approval to let us move forward and finalize them, although of course updating you. We also still have administrative details that need to be determined. And we're trying to follow your direction to just move forward and get some service out to people. So that's why we are coming to you with a few things not 100% defined. But what we are proposing is a TNC subsidized trip program in West Contra Costa County. The people who participate would be residents in West Contra Costa County, but the service area for their trips may be outside of that area because, of course, we know people may very well need to go to Martinez or Oakland, or there may be a different trip that they need to use this program for. We have for program service, we are proposing that individuals would be able to contact GoGo grandparent to request the trip. And it would be any trips they take will be subsidized up to a monthly to be determined cap. We're saying at this time, not to exceed $40 per month. I should note that this proposal is deliberately designed, I like this phrasing, to be a financially and geographically constrained program in order for staff to collect important information relative to potential demand and implementation logistics. So what I mean is we are not going full ambition. We're trying to be conservative. We want to see what we can accomplish. We don't want to put out a lot of service that we can't sustain. So what I'm presenting to you is fairly limited in scope because, as I said, we want to succeed on a limited scale to begin with and then have the potential to expand. So again, with that, so we would have a cap. Service would be available 24/7. There is already our Transit with Lyft program for residents in Richmond and other eligible areas, I presume. So our parameters may need to be adjusted for participants who are in that program so that we're looking for an even level of benefit throughout the subregion. Our eligibility would have really a couple of portions. The first portion is senior 65 and above and people with disabilities. We're proposing that we would determine the eligibility of the people with disabilities by them being registered with one of the ADA or city paratransit programs to start with. And then the second part, of course, is that people would need to meet extremely low income criteria. And we would need to determine a way to verify that. We have a couple of ideas. Again, we have conservatively recommended extremely low income criteria at this point, as opposed to very low income or low income, to be careful with our budget, but allow capacity for less restrictive income requirements later on. For our initial duration, we're proposing 6 months with a review at 3 months. So just to see how it's going, how the subsidy is being spent, and are there problems that people are having with the service that need to be rectified. And we are requesting a total Measure X allocation not to exceed 100,000 for that initial pilot program. We also had hoped to be able to bring to you a proposal for a pilot program for an ADA paratransit subsidy at this time in a different subregion, and we will need to come back to you with that. We are still trying to determine our parameters for that. So that's a lot of information, and I am happy to take questions, and I think we can take the slide down, Alejo.
Okay, is that your end of your presentation, Naomi?
Yes, that is it.
Okay, on my left, first up is Debbie Toth.
Thank you, Chair Mitchoff. Exciting. I wanna say I'm extremely pleased to see that we're piloting it in West County, because there are so many interesting little things to go with West County in terms of how many different providers there are and in terms of those that are not participating in the one seat pilot. So I'm glad to see that there's some extra effort and energy around that. I would also say that Far East Contra Costa suffers from a lack of accessible transportation. I do not know, and Jeannie will know the answer to this, how many, if it's just the strict 3/4 of a mile around the fixed route stop that's being serviced, and if not, there are plenty of areas in Far East County that have no transportation services, so obviously don't have paratransit. So I just want to put a plug in for that. I know this is a pilot, I understand that. But if we're looking at where the extreme need is, I think both West and Far East should be considered. I agree with the low income criteria. I do question whether or not $40 with GoGo Grandparent is going to get somebody more than a trip. Like, does that even do a round trip? Doesn't seem like a sufficient amount of funding to do that. So that's just my first reaction to it, but glad to hear more.
We'll do some more research into some of the other GoGo programs that we know about. Just off the top of my head, I think it might be about 2 round trips. Alejo, does that sound right to you based on our other program we were working on?
Yeah, that sounds right. Maybe around 3. Yeah.
I mean, of course, it depends on the length of the trip. And of course, we don't have control over surge pricing.
Yeah.
Okay. Debbie, does that answer your question and or comment?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, Luella.
Thank you. How are we going to let the potential users of this know that it's available? And I also had the same concern that $40 was a little intuitively low.
Thank you. I think we would, well, luckily in West County, there are some good networks already set up that I think we can talk to. But we would obviously, especially if we're looking at eligibility from some of these programs, we would obviously go through these programs, the city and ADA programs, to reach out to those people, and also the senior centers. And as I said, the existing West County networks that we've been talking to. And I also would like to say, I think as a project team, we're hearing you, and we could decide to increase that subsidy amount as a cap. So to start with, thank you.
Is anything else, Luella? Okay. Charles Anderson.
Hi. So I just wanted to express some concerns. I'm always in the, kind of naysayer in rushing into something like this, and I apologize for that. But I think there are a number of things at work here. There's definitions of boundaries, of lengths of trips. There is apparently a selection of a contractor or a provider for this service. There's an eligibility process that's being implemented that is, not coordinated with other things going on in the region. And, so there are a lot of concerns that I have about rushing forward, even in a pilot kind of context. There are liability issues with selecting a particular provider for this service. So I think, before, I guess I don't have objection to making funding available for this, but I really would like a bit more discussion about how to narrow the scope, how to, address any potential liability concerns, how to, kind of define who benefits from this. Essentially we're introducing 24/7 availability of service for some community, which is not for all communities. And it creates an expectation perhaps that is going to be available countywide, or, so I think that there are pitfalls in rushing forward without really working through the unintended consequences of this.
Okay, thank you. I mean, I'd like to say that, you know, in our memo and in our research, we've looked at a really wide range of programs from a wide range of areas. And I can see why people might feel like, oh, how did you already decide GoGo? And, you know, we've talked about in the project team, you know, we are not required to stay with GoGo. But part of the reason we are suggesting moving forward with GoGo is because we know from comparisons in other areas that they're much more affordable than some of the other concierge options that other cities and jurisdictions have moved forward with. That doesn't mean that we may not have other good reasons to go with another concierge option in the future. For example, Eden INR, which is the 211 provider in Alameda County, is doing a concierge option. But I've also done research and seen nonprofits that set themselves up to do the concierge function and had to stop because they overextended themselves and they didn't work into it. They didn't know what they were doing. So definitely we hear you. And as I said, we're coming at you fast with a lot of stuff and asking you to trust us. We will be happy to continue to give you updates, but it's really up to this group whether you wish to have us move forward with some of these or not. I see that Peter wants to say something.
Okay. I sort of lost control of the meeting here. I'd like to finish with the comments and or questions, and then I'll come back to staff to respond to the issues because others may wish to comment on what commenters have said. And if those who have commented want to re-comment, I'm going to let them do that. So let's have that conversation with the committee members before we, because then staff can better focus their response. Rita, go ahead.
Yes, I have all kinds of questions. To me, it looks kind of confusing from what I've seen so far. As far as our transit is concerned, I don't think they cover people that don't live in Richmond. I have not been able to find out for sure. I have asked people and they can't really answer me. So our transit, from my viewpoint, is just Richmond residents, not San Pablo or El Cerrito or El Sobrani, maybe residents. That's one of my big concerns. Right now, I myself am faced with having to make an appointment for a medical test in Martinez, and I can't get there. Multiply me by one appointment by all the seniors and disabled in San Pablo, El Cerrito, El Sobrani, etc. So I have a huge amount of questions, and hopefully eventually they can be answered. Thank you.
Thank you. Jeannie Krieg.
Still learning how to do this. I had a question. Did you take a look at our Mobility on Demand program? It's very similar to what you've described. We partner with Uber, Lyft, United Taxi, and anyone who's over the age of 65 living in East County can take advantage of a subsidized Uber, Lyft, United Taxi ride. United Taxi has wheelchair accessible vehicles, so it's an extension of our paratransit service that's provided throughout East County, and really they can go wherever they want. We subsidize up to $16 of the fare. They pay the first $4, we pay the next 16, and if it goes above 16, then they pay that. For example, there was a woman who took our Mobility on Demand to the Sacramento airport, and it worked out well for her. She got the ride. We were able to help out a little bit, but did you look at our service at all or talk to anyone on our staff about that?
Staff, please go ahead and answer that question.
Yes, it is included in our case studies. And I have been actually trying to work with Steve or Agustin to confirm that the information we have is correct, and I haven't been able to yet.
Steve Addison. Is that somebody that I should know?
Steve or Augustine?
Oh, Augustine. Okay.
Yeah.
I thought that was the same name.
Yeah, Steve was on leave. I asked Augustine. Augustine was like, I need Steve to come back. So, but we do have what we could find online in our case studies. We'll send it to you. We just want to confirm it's correct.
Yeah, Steve has been back for a few weeks now, so
okay,
he's available.
Was that your only question, Jeannie?
Yes.
Okay. Bob Franklin.
Yeah, along the lines of Jeannie's comment, if the service is used provided by a TNC, is there a provision for an accessible vehicle? That was my question. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Joanna Pollock.
Unmuted. Well, thanks for an opportunity to see this. I hadn't heard about anything about it until I got my packet. So I was a little bit like, whoo, maybe WCTAC could have helped give some insight. That said, we love money and we feel that there's probably an abundant number of qualified candidates. We like the criteria. Lots of questions, just like Rita said. It hasn't worked really well in Richmond for a lot of reasons because of how it's administered. And I would be kind of thinking about things like, is this just for medical appointments? Like if we are giving someone $43, maybe we can give them more because they have more medical appointments. And I'm thinking it's not to go to, just any appointment. So maybe if we constrained it a little bit more, we could do a test group. And my back of the envelope math says if you give $43, you could do a little less than 400 people because you need money to administer this in a 6-month period, which is a lot of people. Maybe we could give them more money, do fewer people, focus on low-income housing, senior centers. You want data after 3 months. You want to have someone that can administer this well. And then again, I think Charlie pointed out, if you start a program and the expectation's there and it stops in 6 months, then you have a problem. And if you expand the program countywide, then you need a lot more money. So where's the money behind the money? So I'm asking questions. I don't want to be a naysayer. I never am. I think I just want to be realistic. Thanks.
Okay, any other committee members wishing to comment? Okay, I'm going to comment. First of all, this is a pilot. And I understand the concept of raised expectations, but in moving forward with a pilot, we would let people know it's a pilot. So I recognize that expectations could be raised, but we need to deal with that. I like the idea of, listening to Jeannie, I just don't think $40 a month is enough because under her program, 2 $16 rides would be $32. And if we did limit it, perhaps to medical in the pilot, maybe that's something to do. I know we've got the 100,000 and to address your question, you were right there, Joanna. This is what this $100,000 from Measure X was given for. It's one-time money. That doesn't mean that it wouldn't be there next year in the need to then leverage and get additional dollars. I believe when we first talked about it, it was to show the efficacy of how it would work, and that would help us to attract other dollars. Obviously, if the pilot doesn't work out, then that's that. But I know I've been hearing, and the other board members on the Board of Supervisors had been hearing, and we've been hearing it at CCTA, that we need to come up with a better way of delivering services to our aging population. So again, maybe the questions that need to be answered are, if West County is designated, and I'm looking at the staff report, I'm not really seeing parameters and or a map, but maybe staff could respond what that geographic area is. And I see that you want to evaluate it after 3 months. Have we put a budget together yet? Although you were waiting for direction from us today, if we increase that stipend a little bit, or that what should I call it? That subsidy. So I'll quit talking. Debbie, you had another thought you wanted to add, and then we'll have staff maybe give us something, and then we'll come back and have a conversation about how we go forward. I did want to address the liability question. We always get a contract that indemnifies the group. So, and the group would have to have their own insurance. So doesn't mean we won't get sued, but Debbie, go ahead.
Yeah, first and foremost, Rita, if you need a ride to a medical appointment, you call me. Secondly, I think that this is figure-outable. Everything is figure-outable. We need to start with something. And I think $40 is too low to start. Let's start with 80. What the heck? I think if you limit it to medical appointments and you are targeting a very low income population, you are misspending our money, because people who are very low income are typically on Medi-Cal, and Medi-Cal has to pay for transportation to and from medical appointments for non-emergency medical transport. So we should not be either not be limiting it to that, or whatever you want to do. I just think that that's not the way to go. And not to say that medical appointments aren't of paramount importance, but I believe there's another funding stream for that for very low income people. So I also am of the mind that going to church on Sunday may be just as important to somebody as going to a medical appointment. Not me, but somebody. I'm just saying, you know, so I think that that's an important thing. And we're happy. So we've done Choice and Aging used to get, I used to call it our Santa Claus fund, but we used to get funding from one of the health plans to be able to just grant out money to seniors in need. So we've gone through a process of figuring out how you identify somebody's eligibility, and you can streamline it and make it pretty simple. So we don't need to get super complex about it, but that's all. Thanks.
Well, and as staff is getting ready to address this, and I would support the 80, and I'm so glad for your expertise, because you're right. We should, if medical appointments are covered by Medi-Cal, and you're right, attending religious services, community events, those are just as important. Have we looked at how many people we would put into the pilot if we did raise it to 80? How many people could participate? And to me, it's means based, but after it's means based, then it's sort of first come, first serve. So you know what our concerns and questions are. I'll look to all of you to respond, whoever wishes to take all of those concerns.
Okay, I have a list. I'm going to go down it, and then everybody else can chime in from the team if they have a better idea. First of all, yeah, the Richmond program, as I know, sometimes they cover unincorporated, but sometimes they don't. But the goal of the program is definitely to cover everybody. Our program would be to cover everybody who lives in West County who's eligible, so not just limited. I am really actually happy to know about a Tri-Delta transit program, because we did have concerns as we expand that maybe there aren't as enough drivers in that part of the county. So it's good to hear that there are those types of trips already happening. The accessible vehicle option is always a problem, and it's just an ongoing thing for everyone who needs an accessible vehicle. And you know, I have so many projects around this. I even have a project with the TNC around this, and I don't know what the answer is or the silver bullet. But I also want to note that this is a supplemental program to the programs that are already existing in that part of the county. We're trying to fill some gaps that some of those programs don't provide for people. And unfortunately, in terms of accessible trips, that may not be as helpful as we would like right from the start. Let me see, data and administration. one of the benefits of working with the provider we talked about is they have a very good data feedback. They set up a dashboard and they work with you to customize the reporting. So although we would be coming back to you at 3 months, we would actually be collecting data on a weekly or monthly basis and crunching those numbers about the trips lengths, the waiting time that people had, the cost of the trips, the surge pricing, all of those fun things. The geographic area that we would allow people to go to definitely need to be determined. I would also note that I am in agreement in allowing people to select their own trip priorities. I think that's best for them to do as individuals because, you know, the thing that they may need this for, as Debbie said, might be to go to church, or it might be to go to another part of the county to visit a family member they haven't seen for a long time. And I am reluctant to dictate specifically that it be medical trips, because for one thing, then also we have to then find a way to check on that. So that's my first fast feedback. Any other, I see other members of the team have their hands up.
Peter, go ahead.
Yeah, I just in the interest of, you know, we've got 10 minutes and we're going to lose a quorum. So I want to make sure that we stay kind of within the parameters of what we need to do and maybe come up with some solutions that make this easier for everybody. I think we can, I think what was presented, there's still logistics that need to be worked out. If we're willing, if the task force is willing to start this pilot, and it is a pilot in West County, then we would be happy to work with the stakeholders in West County, Charlie and WCTAC, on those logistics to make sure that we're all on the same page. From a funding level, if you want to increase it from 100,000 maximum to something above that, we can certainly do that. Again, that's just a not to exceed amount. If we think we need more money per passenger per trip, just remember the reason that number is kind of low is because this is just a West County pilot versus something county-wide, and kind of to address Jeannie's concerns. We're looking for stuff in East County too, and we're going to sit down with Jeannie and kind of work through that, whether it's something that she can provide through Tri-Delta. We're still looking for something for the public operator to subsidize for low-income folks their trips. So maybe there's an opportunity there. And you know what, there may not be something that fits a single program that fits the county, because everybody provides different services at different prices. The idea here is that we are subsidizing low-income riders. This is something we heard in the strategic plan. It's still too expensive, and there needs to be some subsidy for these trips, and it may be different in different parts of the county. So you know, that's something that we can work on and we'll bring forward to the task force in future meetings. But I think just to get the ball rolling here and get something out on the street and start moving it forward, I think to Debbie Toe's comment, we're just trying to, you know, bring to you today a program that we think will be successful. And if you give us some parameters to work within, we can go out and work on those logistics. And in that specific sub-region, we can work with those stakeholders to really work out those logistics and get something implemented as soon as possible.
Thank you. Richard?
Yeah, thanks. Again, because of the point that Peter made about not losing a quorum, I'm just going to say 2 sentences. And that is that I just want to point out there's a contradiction in the inputs that we're getting. So I'd like you to keep this in mind when you do decide on this. On the one hand, Charlie's saying that we need to narrow the scope of this. On the other, I'm hearing requests to double it from $40 to $80, which has a huge impact. And also to possibly expand the eligibility criteria so that more people are eligible. Those things are in contradiction with each other. And it's going to be a lot easier to expand it from $40 to 60 or even 80, but going in the other direction would be much more difficult. I just want to make that point. Thanks.
Thank you. Charles?
So we all want this to be successful. And I think that given all of the uncertainty that, you know, this committee is dealing with right now, and people having multiple questions about how it's going to be delivered, that it makes sense to make one more stop here. And if the budget needs to be, raised to accomplish something significant, let's do that. But right now, to take an action, walking into, a dark room and bumping into things as we're delivering this doesn't make sense to me. I would appreciate the opportunity for staff to work on this, bring forward a more defined set of principles and approaches, and then we take the appropriate action at that time. But I think delaying it a month rather than making a mistake actually is the way to go.
Okay, it's 2:55. Is there any public comment on this?
I have not received any written public comment, and I don't see any hands raised.
Okay. John and Teresa and Peter and I actually had a meeting earlier this morning on some scheduling issues, and we're not currently scheduled to meet in July, but we could meet in July. To your point, Peter, I know we want to get something going, and I appreciate Richard's point about maybe needing to do the lower subsidy at this point, since it is just a pilot. The whole $100,000 is going to be spent on this. So my concern is, what if it doesn't work out? My thought on accessible vehicles, and I'm not sure this is doable, and maybe this is something that you could come back to us in July, is, and I hate to restrict it, but restrict it to cities that have van services. I know in Pleasant Hill, we have an accessible van. I think the city of Concord does. I don't know which cities in West County do, but it sort of negates the problem, or the concern I have is, if I'm somebody that needs accessible transportation and I call and I'm sorry, we can't help you, we don't have an accessible vehicle. I'm not sure we're going to get the data, but I look to you as experts. Is there a problem with delaying the decision till July? John or Peter? John, I'm seeing your face.
Yeah.
Peter.
Yeah, sorry. I don't, the chicken dance. I don't see a problem delaying it. We're just trying to, move as quickly as possible on these things. If we need to delay it till July, that's fine. We're also looking at a one-seat ride potential decision in July, which may not happen, or it may be something that, again, the task force wants to, have other options. So we're available and happy to meet as often as the task force needs us.
Well, I don't want to delay it just to delay it, because while I respect Charles' concerns, I'm not sure that is the majority feeling of the committee. So is my thought something that you can look at? Maybe you already have that information on which communities and or jurisdictions have accessible vans, because okay, City X doesn't have one, and if we say they don't get to participate, but again, it's just a pilot. I need to see some nodding of heads. It was just a thought. I'm not saying it's the be all and end all of what other people would think.
Chair Mitchoff, where I really like to get with this once the coordinated entity gets going is, look, we did all these pilots and what did we find out?
We need an accessible van.
Is there some type of subsidy program where we can use a card or a phone or whatever, and people can use whatever service they want, whether it's a TNC or whether it's an ADA or whatever. They meet the low income requirements, they can use it. But until we kind of do some of these pilots and see what the demands are, we just aren't there yet.
Okay, that's fair. Again, I hate to cut you off, but I'm looking at it. We got a minute. So here I'm going, folks. Do we need to delay this a month, or are people ready to someone to move this and give staff authority to move forward? even though we have outstanding questions and concerns, that's one of the things that a pilot will hopefully address. Or do you want this to come back next month with, I guess, more detail, but I'm not sure that what that might be. I'm not seeing any.
Can I suggest maybe if people are willing to take a vote that if you're willing to give us some parameters as far as budget and this is the program we're looking at, we can then convene prior to implementation with the West County folks. And
Okay,
unless
so
there's an issue with West County.
Do you just need funding parameters?
Funding parameters and the general idea of this TNC program that we're going to provide a level of subsidy on a monthly basis. So the $40 number might change.
So you're saying,
and
do you want a different, go ahead.
I guess what we would do even without a vote is we would do that. We would go ahead and work with the West County folks to.
Let's do this, Peter, and I know we don't want to delay, but I think one reason to bring this back next month is to get more concrete budget information. What if it looked at 40? What if we did it at 50? You know, that. And I saw your thumbs up and Naomi is shaking her head. So we don't have to take a vote because I know people are leaving. Is it okay to give direction to staff to move forward with that direction and that we will have a July meeting? I will be at the NACO conference, but if I've landed in Colorado, I will be on Zoom. Otherwise, Teresa will be chairing that meeting. But I believe it's whatever day, it's the third Thursday of the month. And again, we had taken that off our calendar, but as you'll recall, when we first began meeting, there was work to be done, and that's why we said every other month. But it seems as we move forward with things, we probably should start considering meeting monthly. And so I'm hoping Luella's shaking her head. Yes, Rita is. Okay. Yes, Teresa. Okay, that's the direction to staff, and we'll bring it back and we will have a meeting on July 16th. And for those of you that have to leave, thank you for your comments. We do have one more action item. Do we not? Item 4C.
It's not an action item, but I think it's information from Tom Tamura that everybody.
Okay, so that was our only action item, and we've given direction. So we welcome you to stay, but those of you who have other commitments, we totally understand. So let's move on then to 4C, the presentation on the 211 ride.
I guess I'll just take it away. Hello, everyone, members.
Hi, Tom. Yes,
Chair Mitchell.
Hi, go ahead.
Hello. Oh, thank you. Thank you for having come here. I've been part of some conversations around with different members of this group in different committee meetings or different meetings about how we might be able at the Crisis Center to be able to help with some of these questions about having one place to be able to get your information about the resources available to our community for transportation needs. And so even in this meeting, how are we going to get the word out? Those kinds of questions. I believe I have a possible solution. So real quickly, I'm going to spend 3 minutes for those of you who don't know about the Crisis Center. Here we are here. Next slide, please. This is a basic card that we put out, English and Spanish. We also have some new things going out that are in multiple languages, trying to get people to our services. The big thing to know here is we're a 24/7 call center. We're located in Walnut Creek. And we can move on to the next one, please. Our mission is to keep people alive and safe, help them through crises, and provide or connect them with culturally relevant resources in the community. Next slide, please. So we provide a 24-hour crisis lines, a 24-hour 2-in-1 info and resource referral. I believe many of you know what that is. We are the homeless coordinated entry, the entry point for the homeless, H3. Right now, we provide and work with a lot of folks on this call in different capacities for COVID-19 updates, assistance, and we also do work with our partners in the county and throughout the Bay Area on doing eviction protection. We also work closely with the Office of Emergency Services to provide direct disaster response. We also have a project right now with our California 211 network There's 13 call centers covering most of the counties in the state. And we're working to do public safety and power shutoff updates and navigation supports for people, especially in the AFN communities, seniors, et cetera, that may be particularly impacted by a loss of power. We also do Help Me Grow and ACEs work with La Clinica and First Five and others. We also provide grief support. We've been doing that for decades now, and so we specialize in traumatic loss. We have a support group for those that have lost loved ones to suicide, one for partner loss, and one for that have lost their kids. And so we operate those throughout the year and been doing that for decades. And we do a lot of community outreach and more, including we do a lot of suicide prevention training. Next, please. So the way that most people know how to reach us is calling 211. We also have an alternative number, that 800 number there, 833-2900. So that's to enable people 2 ways to get to us. We found that some people that might be calling with a phone system as part of a building, a phone system, may not be able to call 211 directly. So we have the 800 number. We also have a texting HOPE to 20121. The grief hotline. We also we're going to be going to the other side of the house here. We answer local and national calls from the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline, which very soon is going to be transferred from the 273 talk line to 988. And we answer those as part of a national network, and we've been answering those calls also for years. We also answer after hours child and adult protective services calls. Next slide, please. Our 211 information referral, we provide local health and social services resources 24/7. If your agency's in the county, if you're not in our resource directory, you should be talking to Blanca, who I'm going to bring on and introduce soon. But we manage this online resource database, and we also can provide printable resource guides in certain circumstances. The biggest thing about us is that we are constantly reaching out to our community partners and CBOs to make sure that the information about their resource is always up to date. There's nothing worse than having somebody in this group in particular, they're jumping on a bus and driving 2 hours in a bus ride and realizing the hours have changed. So we really see that resource data in particular is a very perishable product, and that's what that's our business. So you can reach our resource database by getting to 211cc.org. You can go there and check it out. Here's some of the things we do for our resource database. You can look at that, come on our website and check it out. Next slide. Our main reasons people are calling us are for mental health, housing, and food insecurity or food supports. Those are the three main reasons they call us. On all of our hotlines, we average around 70,000 calls a year. Next, please. I'm going to be handing it over now to Blanca Gutierrez. She's our resource database manager, has been a call specialist in our call center. And she's going to walk you through quickly what our database is, and we're going to move into 211 RIDE, and I'll chiming in. Blanca.
Yeah, thank you for having us. Appreciate your time. So this slide here, it's basically our online resource directory, and all of our resources are available in our internal database, are also available viewable to the online directory. Clients can translate this resource directory to multiple languages. We have about 11 different languages, and right now we're currently working on adding more languages. So we have these categories, the most common categories, and this is just a screenshot of our resource directory online. These are the most common categories and the most common needs in our call center and basically in the community, as you can see: shelter, housing, food assistance, mental health. And when we scroll down on this resource directory online, there's a search bar, and we can just type in anything that comes to mind, any need that we may have. We can type, for example, transportation, and then we'll see all of those programs and resources that are listed under a keyword of transportation. I also have an arrow here printing on view on map. We can view all of the resources that we have in our database on a map, which I think I have a screenshot of it in the next slide. And so this is what the option view on map looks like. This is our County of Contra Costa. These are all of the pins. Basically, these red pins or red flags are all of the resources listed in our County of Contra Costa. We have some outside of our border. You can see this dark black line outside of our border that is letting us know what's outside of our county, what's inside of our county. We do have programs that are outside of our county if they serve residents of Contra Costa County. So West County, there are some out in Oakland, Hayward, that still provide support and needed services that are not fully met within our county. So that's why we sometimes list other resources outside of our county. There's a little green arrow. When I did the screenshot, I was far east Contra Costa, so that's why there's that green arrow there. So it locates where the client is in, allowing the client to see what resources are in their surrounding location. And when I did the screenshot for this slide, I also expanded on filter services, and we're able to filter if I want to only select basic needs. This has a drop down, this arrow, and we would be able to see the basic needs would be like shelter, food, transportation, and then we can drill down even further if we needed to. For this example, I just wanted to show you all of those red flags, red pins in our county. So now if I go to the next slide, this is what 211ride.org looks like when you first visit this, this website. Our 211 Ride is primarily, and Tom, you can chime in anytime, primarily in Southern California and Orange County and those surrounding counties. I believe there's a total of 5 or 7 different counties that are part of 211 Ride. And it's primarily utilizing the 211 resource directory that is populating transportation resources and the ability to plan a trip and find the services via this 211 Ride platform. This is a product, I believe, provided by Cambridge
Systematics. And yeah, there's 5 counties, LA, Orange County, Riverside, San Bernardino, and Ventura that are part, and we are part of a California 211 network. And so we are already sharing resource data. So, and we have certain projects now at Kinship Care, for example, that we can actually draw on resources from any of the participating counties. And so 211 Ride is something that we really hope to expand throughout the state, because we, of course, we know that people have transportation needs outside of our normal borders. So we work very closely with our Bay Area partners, with Eden, as you mentioned, Attaway Bay Area. We cover about eight of the Bay Area counties that are our neighbors. And so we're hoping to be a pilot for this up in Northern California. The Southern California agencies have already expressed their desire to help us get this rolling.
Yeah, and so this next screenshot that I have is basically pulling on resources in Orange County, because 211 Ride is not currently anywhere in Contra Costa. So when I input an address, then it takes me to this screenshot where I'm able to customize the search. If I'm a veteran, if I have a verifiable disability, what type of age category, and what type of transportation. If I'm looking for a taxi, if I'm looking for door-to-door service, transit, paratransit, all of those options I can select, and then I would click on Find Matching Travel Options, and it'll give me a list of resources. And I have another screenshot in the following slide. So you can see the different locations, the address, my starting address, and then my arriving address where I plan to go my trip. And I just chose in Orange County. It's a center that helps disabled individuals. It's an independent living center. And so it gives me the search results, and then I can select any one of these providers to click on the show details and get more information. So I clicked on the very first one, I believe. If we go to the next slide, it will show the type of details that it gives us. It gives us, and I'm sorry if this seems really small font for you all, but the fare amount, the name of the agency, their contact information, the hyperlink to their website, the description of the service, and the scheduled hours, as well as eligibility requirements. And I clicked on another search result that populated, and this one actually gives us step-by-step instructions on how to get to that location. With the if I put a time frame of when I'm leaving, and it'll give me a an exact time of when I will be arriving there, and then, how long I'll be walking for, or which bus I'm going to be taking. If I were to click on any one of these bubbles here that says service info, it gives me more information about the provider. So if it's a transit agency, it'll give me more information if I need to contact them or not. So that's how 211 Ride works. It's primarily driven by the resource directory that we 211 have and manage and maintain. But it does give you that option and that ability to plan a trip from point A to point B, and you can search by the address, by the location. You can customize the needs that you may have. I think that's pretty much what I wanted to share with you all today.
Was there one more slide, Blanca? No, that's it.
I think that was the only slide.
Yeah, I think that as a county, the decision of the one click one ride, or I believe that was what it's called, we can enable join this platform, I think, independently of 211 Ride. We can also join it as a network and be able to be a kind of a pathfinder to bring in other Bay Area counties, which would be ideal. So we're extending the usefulness of the project. So it really comes down to, just like all the things we do 211 is whatever you need, then there's one place to get your information and know that it's up to date and reliable resource data. And then this would, for transportation needs in particular, be able to tell you, as Blanca said, how to get to A to B, what is it going to cost you, how long it's going to take you to get there, if you have to walk, and it's based on your whatever limiting factors you might have in getting from one place to the other. So I don't know if anybody has any questions.
I'm going to make a comment to staff. It was a great presentation, but we don't have it in our packet. And we really need, I'd ask that this be sent out afterwards, because there was a lot of information in that PowerPoint slide, and I couldn't get it all at one time. I know this was informational only, but we need that, and also be on the one seat ride pilot program. There's nothing there either. We did have it for item A. So in the future, that would be my request. Thank you very much. Any other comments or questions by members of the committee? Well, thank you for that. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, I will note, Chair Mitchoff, that we will send the full packet, including Tom's information, out to you.
Thank you. I'm on the website. I thought maybe, because I was looking at another committee meeting I'm at tonight, and I'm not seeing on it. And I'm thinking, am I blind or what?
Yeah, no, we will send this all out to you.
Okay, so that would be helpful. And it should be, we need to post it to the website just for transparency.
I think, Jackie, we do that, right? We put the presentations on the website.
I'm looking at the website and I'm not seeing it, Peter. That's
I mean after the meeting.
Well, yeah. I know at CCTA they sometimes do that if it's not included, but per the Brown Act, even though we've suspended some of it, if it's on the agenda and there's going to be a presentation, we really need it to be part of the agenda packet. I understand how sometimes people are working on it up until that time, and anyway, it's okay. To the extent we can, we really need to do that. But thank you for sending it out tomorrow.
We'll work with Terry on that.
Great. So anybody else, comments or questions? Well, thank you, Tom, and your staff. That was very informative. And I will go back to my document.
Thank you very much, everyone.
Oh, here we are. Okay. So moving on, I believe we're on item 5, everyone, which is correspondence and communications. I didn't see anything in the packet. Is there no? John shaking his head? No. So with that, thank you. And we are adjourned. Again, we will meet on July 16th from 2 to 4. Teresa.
The third Thursday is the 21st.
Oh, well, then you'll be lucky that I will be there. I will be back. So thank you so much. July, I don't know why I'm thinking the 16th. So thank you. July 21st, everyone. And that was my error.
Supervisor
Yes.
or Chair Mitchell, if you
No,
won't
that's
say it, I will. Go Warriors.
Oh, yeah. I don't have my gold-blooded t-shirt on. I thought I should be professional, but as soon as I leave the meeting, I will be putting it on.
Okay.
Teresa, did you have another comment?
No, just go Dubs.